Hi, my name is Amaya. It's November 4th and I'm doing my lower extremity competency video. Here's my list of projections that I'll be using, and to start, I'm going to do the Settegast, which is the sunrise. I do have a 105 degree angle on the tube. I'm going to have you lift your knee up just a little bit, maybe bring it down a little bit. I'm going to place the image receptor on your knee a little bit at an angle. Turn my light on, measure, and see if I have 40. And I do have 40 inches as I do. And so I'm gonna close down my collimation, and then can I actually have you bring your knee up just, not that much, right there. And then I do need to make sure her knee is centered and get my crosshairs at the apex of the patella. I can move your fingers out of the light, close it in, stick my right marker because this is her right leg, and exposure would be made. And so now I'm gonna move on to the axial, the calcaneus. So can I have you straighten your leg? And then stick your foot straight up and dorsiflex it. I do need a 40-degree angle on the tube. Excuse me, I'm gonna move this up. And make sure that I get to 40, and I'm there. Center. Open up my light. Back. Measure it out, make sure I'm at 40 inches. And let's see. Ooh, hold on. Let me remeasure it. Okay, I am at 40 inches SID. Close it up. And then if you want to come on this side so you can see the centering point. And then I'm going to make sure that her foot is centered and it's dorsiflex for me, please. I can close my light in. We do want a little bit of light at the top of the toe though. I'm gonna bring it down. And then the exposure would be made. And so now I'm gonna move on to the Be Clear method of the knee. So can I have you bend your knee up, please? Just a little bit. Yep, like that. And then for this one, I wanna make sure that my light is perpendicular to the tip fib. But I do wanna be centered at the apex of the patella. So for her, that's gonna be right there. And then I do need to put a little bit more angle on the tube just to get it perpendicular. I'm gonna come back, measure it out, make sure that I am at 40 inches SID. If you wanna check, and I am at 40 inches. I'm gonna open my light up just a little bit, cone it in. I have light above and below. I'm gonna place my marker right here in the light, and exposure would be made. And so now I'm going to move on to the AP axial of my foot. And so that's going to be at a 10-degree angle. So can I have you put your foot straight on the board? Thank you. I'm going to put a 10-degree angle on the tube. Okay. And then make sure that I am at 40 inches. Not quite, I need to come up a bit. I'm at 40 inches. Open up my light. Make sure that I'm centered on the third MTP base. And then we don't want to clip those toes or the heel. I'm gonna screw your foot back just a bit. All right, place my right marker. And exposure would be made. And now I'm gonna cone it down for the toes and put a 15-degree angle on the tube. Make sure that I'm at the third MTP joint. Open up my light because I'm clipping her toes just a little bit. Cone it in, bring it down. And then put that angle on the tube. I'm at 15 degrees. Then that did change it a little bit, so I'm gonna recenter. Close it in. I'm gonna make sure that your foot is centered. Exposure will be made. And so now I'm gonna be moving on to the AP oblique of the toes. So I'm gonna rotate your foot to a 45-degree angle and check with my 2 fingers. I'm gonna make sure that I'm centered and take the angle off the tube. So I'm now at 0. And then my right arm. Get centered at the third MTP. Recheck that for the 2 fingers. Put my marker, exposure will be made. And if you could hold your foot like that, I'm gonna open it up, go to the base of the third MTP, and get that AP oblique of the foot. Cone it down, and we want to make sure we have the heel. Put my marker, exposure would be made, and so now I'm going to be moving on to the lateral view of the calcaneus. So can I have you put your pinky side down and make sure that you get up on your hip? Yep, just like that. And then I'm going to scoot your foot back just a little bit. And for the calcaneus, we do want to be 1 inch distal to the medial malleolus, so it's going to be right here, about 1 inch distal. Get centered. Close my light. Bring it down just a little bit, make sure I got everything in there. Put my marker down, and exposure would be made. Now I'm gonna open it up and do the lateral of the foot. Actually, I'm gonna do the lateral of the medial lateral ankle. So I do wanna be centered right at the medial malleolus. So I'm gonna come up, cone in my light just a little bit. I can bring it down some. And I'm gonna scoop my board up. Yep, you're good. And then I need to bring this down. Put my marker, exposure will be made, and now I'm gonna move on to the lateral of the foot. Open up my light. I'm gonna scoop my image receptor up just a little bit. Get centered on her foot. Cone in my light. Make sure I'm not clipping the heel. Bring this down. Get centered. Alright. Make sure I'm not clipping the heel. I'm not.
Can we come in and watch you guys practice?
I'm recording. And then I'm gonna put my right marker. Exposure would be made. And so now I'm gonna move on to the toes. So can I have you stick out your big toe and extend it out? And then I'm gonna get centered on the joint space. Cone in my light. And then I don't like how close my image receptor is, so I'm gonna scoot it back. Cone that down. Open it up just a little bit more. Bring it down. Plot my marker right here, and exposure would be made. And so now I'm gonna move on to the AP ankle. So can I have you get back up flat on your butt and then stick your foot dorsiflex straight up in the air? Yep, just like that. So now I'm gonna move this, get centered on the ankle, open up my light. Make sure I'm centered right here on the ankle joint. Close it in. And then exposure would be made. And so now I'm gonna do the Mortise view. So I'm gonna rotate the ankle just a little bit. Make sure I'm still centered on that joint space. And then exposure would be made. And now I'm gonna do the AP oblique. So I'm gonna rotate your foot to a 45-degree angle. Get centered. Make sure I'm not clipping. Move my marker. Exposure would be made. And so now I'm going to move on to the AP of the knee. And so I do need to measure it out for her hips to see the angle on the tube. If you could lay down flat for me, please. I'm going to slide this under you and measure her hips. And so she is at 22, pretty much. So we do not need to angle the tube. It was more like 23, but I'm going to move this to her knee. And then I'm gonna scoot your knee up. Just lay it flat. Thank you. About right there. Then I do want to be centered at the apex of the patella. So for her, that's gonna be right here. Open up my light a bit more, top and bottom, closed in. Plot my marker, dorsiflex your foot for me, and exposure would be made. And so now I'm going to move on to the AP oblique medial rotation. I'm gonna rotate your knee in, check those condyles. Get centered. Make sure I'm not clipping on that side. Still at the same spot. Put my marker right there where there's light. Exposure will be made. And now I'll have you laterally rotate it. So can you come up on your hip just a little bit? Not too much. Yep, that's great. Make sure that I'm still centered. I'm gonna come up just a little bit. Yep. And then pop my marker. I can actually open it up a little bit more to make sure I'm not clipping in the back, and exposure would be made. And so now I'm gonna do the lateral. So can I have you come completely on your affected side on your hip, and then extend your knee and bend it. I'm gonna move this, make sure I'm centered. The apex. Open up my light so that I'm not clipping her knee. Get a little more centered on her leg. I'm not. But my marker and exposure would be made. And so now I'm going to move on to the tib fib. I'm gonna, oh wait, actually I'm gonna redo that because I do need to put a 5-degree angle on the tube for the lateral. 5 to 7, so I'm good at 6. And then can I have you bend your knee, please? All right. I'm gonna make sure I'm still centered at the correct spot. I do have light on the back. Can you lay all the way up on your knee, please? Plot my marker and exposure will be made. And now I will be moving on to the lateral of the tib. So can you just keep your leg on your side, please? I'm gonna have it diagonal because I do want to be able to fit the whole thing on my board. I'm gonna take the angle off the tube. We're at 0. Okay. Then can I actually have you scoot forward just a little bit? Keep your leg lateral. I'm gonna turn my tube, open it up. Actually, I'm gonna keep it straight. Open my light all the way. Close it in because I do want to get her entire leg from the ankle. Get centered on her leg. And I do have the whole thing on here. Above the knee and to the ankle. So I'm gonna pop my marker and exposure will be made. And now I'll have you come straight. Turn your leg straight. I'm gonna keep my board diagonal. I'm gonna have you scooch out. And then get centered on her tib fib in the middle. Open my light up all the way. Close it in. Not quite centered. Don't want to clip on that other side. Bring it down. Not clipping, so gonna make sure I am centered. Put my marker down, and exposure will be made. And I'm done.